Good afternoon, everyone. Please type and send the number 1 if you can hear me clearly. Okay, there. Welcome to the Disability Study Center's free webinar entitled Our Children in the World, Understanding the Relationship Between Sensory Processing and Behavior. I am teacher Alisa, an occupational therapist in DPC. Here's a brief inter-occupational therapy student from UP Manila. She's currently on her last 2 medical rotations and has mainly worked with children and adolescents throughout her internship year. Her areas of interest include community practice and physical rehabilitation. She is also working as a frequent volunteer at Special Achievers, a non-government organization during her free time. Let's all welcome teacher Alex Furgan.
Hello po, good afternoon po everyone. So ako po si Teacher Alex Faraganan. So isa nga po akong occupational therapy intern mula sa UP Manila, College of Allied Medical Professions. So today po, magbabahagi po ako ng information tungkol sa sensory processing and sensory integration. So lahat po ng i-discuss ko today ay background knowledge sa concepts mula sa sensory systems, sa sensory processing disorders, behaviors ng mga children with sensory processing difficulties, pati na rin po mga strategies and also activities no, for sensory integration so that yung mga children po na may difficulty nga with processing sensory input, they can still perform mga meaningful activities at home, at school, and also sa community. So bago po tayo magsimula sa heart ng discussion, so I'll introduce first yung goal ng webinar na to. No? So ang goal po ng webinar natin is mataguyod yung knowledge or kahalaman at application po ng sensory integration techniques na kinakailangan po ng mga bata para makapag-participate sila sa mga daily activities. No? So again, before we go into the heart of the webinar, let's talk first ba kung ano po yung ginagawa ng mga occupational therapists or OTs para ma-address yung mga sensory processing difficulties, no? So, kasi po, minsan, may misconception yung general public kung ano po ba yung ginagawa ng OT, especially po kapag nag-work kami with kids. Kasi parang nakikita lang nila na puro laro or puro play activities lang. So, ang play po kasi or paglalaro, yun yung main form of work or activity ng mga children. So kahit sa simple games like Simon Says, yung mga Bring Me, maraming skills na po na-improve yung mga bata. So dapat di po natin masyadong maliit yung tingin sa play kasi ito po ay very big sa part ng development ng children. Okay po? So, ayan. So in relation po sa ating topic, kapag mayroon kasing problems yung children with the sensory system, so itong nasa ilalim na to. So mahihirapan sila to learn more advanced skills like problem solving, decision making, logical reasoning, and so on and so forth. Based po sa diagram na to. So kasi po, yung sensory skills natin or yung sensory systems, dyan nakabase yung foundation no, ng lahat ng skills na nakikita nyo dyan. Kasi siya yung nasa bottom ng pyramid. So if meron silang issues with their sensory systems or sensory skills, that would later on magma-manifest or makikita natin na meron din silang problem sa advanced skills. So ito pong nasa taas ng mga to. Okay po? So next. Yan. So ano po bang ginagawa nga namin mga OTs para ma-address yung sensory processing difficulties? So una po is we identify and understand. So ano po yung ina-identify namin? So usually ito yung mga behavior na related to problems in sensory processing. So bali ang ginagawa po namin is tinitingnan namin kung ano yung mga behavior na mayroon sila at kung bakit meron silang ganitong behavior. Kasi meron nga pong mga batang biglang umiiyak no kapag sumasakay sa elevator, hindi natin alam kung takot ba sila dun sa space or or nahihilo sila kapag umaakyat pa ba yung elevator. So may mga bata rin pong takbo na takbo and hindi mapaupo na para pong hindi napapagod. Tama po? And yun nga po, as OTs, naririto po kami upang matulungan yung parents, especially yung parents, maintindihan and maunawaan nila yung mga behavior na ito is bahagi po ng development ng anak nila. So, we educate them po na yung mga behavior na to, ito yung mga paraan kung paano natututo yung kids about themselves and also about their environment. And then, for point number 2, so nagbibigay kami and nagre-recommend po kami ng mga activities, no, para ma-address or mabigyang pansin yung mga behaviors na kailangan mabawasan or mabago. So, for example po, may mga batang ayaw kumain ng gulay or ayaw humawak ng mga magagaspang na bagay. Kasi yun po yung mga bagay na gusto nilang iwasan or avoid kasi it gives them some form of discomfort, no? So as OTs, kami po, nabibigay kami ng opportunity to learn more about the environment through play activities. Since yun nga, again, like I said earlier, children learn through play. So and then lastly po is we help and educate. So nagtuturo po kami mainly sa mga magulang or caregiver na mga paraan na maaari nilang gawin sa bahay, especially ngayon na online yung setting, yung mga therapy sessions. No? So very caregiver directed po yung learning. So, yun nga po, nagtuturo kami kung anong gagawin ng mga magulang para sa kanilang kids, no? Para masanay and mamaster ng mga bata yung mga necessary skills for sensory processing. So, again po, yung profession namin is to help these children perform meaningful tasks through play activities kasi children again learn a lot through play. So, next po. Ayan. So let's review po our sensory system. So 'di ba nung elementary and high school, ang tinuturo po sa atin ay yung 5 basic senses lang. So yun nga, yung eyes are for seeing, so yun yung visual sense. Nose is for smelling, so yun yung olfactory sense. So tongue is for tasting, gustatory sense or oral sense. Yung ears are for hearing, auditory sense, and the skin is for touching, yung tactile sense. But today, kailangan natin malaman na meron palang 8 sensory systems. So today, didiscuss natin yung 3 additional hidden senses. So yung clue, para malaman natin kung ano yung 3 hidden senses na yun, yung start ng bawat word ay bumubuo ng acronym. So ito yung VIP. So is there anyone who wants to guess kung ano yung 3 hidden sensory systems? You can type in sa chat box or unmute yourself to answer. It's okay po, you're encouraged to answer. Yeah, yan po. Meron pong vestibular, yun po yung letter V. Okay, meron proprioceptive, yun yung letter P. So, may gusto po bang mag-guess kung ano yung letter I? So, very uncommon actually yung letter I. And recently ko lang din nalaman na may letter I pala. Ayan. So, interoception. That's correct. So, yung meaning ng VIP is vestibular, interoceptive system, and yung proprioceptive system. Yan. So, unang hidden sense is yung vestibular. So, remember, vestibular, balancing on a ball. Yun. So, yung vestibular system actually is an organ na matatagpuan sa loob ng ating ears. So, yung ears natin may liquid doon. Every time na we move, gumagalaw din siya. So, siya yung reason kung bakit hindi tayo natutumba every time na gumagalaw tayo or every time na naglalakad tayo, tumatakbo, or sumasayaw. So, again, yung vestibular system, this keeps our balance every time we move. So ito din yung nagme-maintain ng ating posture every time nakaupo tayo, nakatayo, or any position we're in. Okay po? So far, is it clear naman po? Yan. You can use the Zoom functions to raise. Yan. Okay. I see some hands. Okay. So common problems po kapag may issues sa vestibular system. So sila yung madalas mabilis mahilo. So, very important nga yung dapat intact yung vestibular sensory systems natin kasi our bodies are always meant to move. No? So, this keeps us upright and it prevents us from falling kung ano man position yung body natin every time na our bodies are in motion. So, children with vestibular problems often ayaw nilang binubuhat kasi mabilis sila mahilo or nagsusuka sila agad. So ito yung mga batang ayaw sumakay sa elevator kasi iba yung feeling na tumataas and bumababa. So ito din often yung mga children na madalas na dadapa or natutumba kasi their balance is not very good. Okay, so far, is everything clear? Okay. So I'll move on na po sa next sensory system. So interoceptive sensory system. So remember so sa loob. So for some people nga, it's a surprise na meron pala tayong information na nakukuha sa loob ng ating katawan. So kapag sinabi nating getting information from the environment, di ba, often po naiisip natin na external lang. So, but in fact, we also get information from our internal organs, so within our bodies. So, ito yung nagsasabi na, oops, puno na yung tiyan ko, busog na pala ako. Or ito yung parang nararamdaman mong mabigat na feeling sa dibdib mo kapag kinakabahan ka. So, as you can see po from this alone, na yung information na nakukuha natin ay hindi lang, again, from outside our bodies, but also from the inside of our bodies. So yung mga children or people na may issues with their interoceptive sensory system, so sila yung mga hindi nila alam na nagpapasta pala sila ng stool or nagwiwiwi na sila, na they don't know na nagwiwiwi na sila. So ito yung mga nalilipasan ng gutom or they really can't tell if nabubusog na sila or hindi. So dito mo din makikita yung mga children na mataas yung pain tolerance. So kapag nasusugatan sila, hindi nila masyado napapansin. So ito po yung just some common problems with the interoceptive sensory system. And then next po, lastly, is the proprioceptive sensory system. So, di ba yung mga pro-lifters, malalaki yung muscles. So, remember, proprioception. So, ito yung ability ng body natin to be aware of position. So, kung nakatayo ba tayo or nakahiga. Location, kung yung katawan ba natin ay on the ground or off the ground. And or orientation. So, saan ba nakaharap yung katawan natin? Kaharap ba tayo sa left, sa right, up, or down? So, ang mga common problems naman for children with proprioceptive sensory input. So ito yung mga hindi nila masyado ma-estimate kung gaano ka-amount of force yung dapat ini-exert nila kapag naglalakad. So parang nagdadabog sila. Sila yung mahilig tumakbo ng tumakbo, mahilig kumagat ng kung ano-anong bagay. Kasi yun nga, again, they don't know how much force to exert. So yung proprioceptive sensory system kasi natin, matatagpuan siya within our muscles and joints. Okay po? So, the question is, bakit po ba natin kailangan malaman yung information ito? No? So, kailangan po natin maintindihan na yung sensory organs, yung tumatanggap na information mula sa environment, na yung information na ito, we refer to them normally as stimuli. And yung information or stimuli na natatanggap na ating sensory organs ay ginagamit na ating brain para makabuo ng angkop na response so that we can adapt to changes in our environment. So to put it simply or para mas madali po yung explanation, ayan. So, yeah. Ito po yung easy explanation kung paano nag-a-adjust yung body natin to the environment. So, our sensory systems, ito, sa input, sila yung nag-gather na information from our environment. And then, our brain, siya yung nag-i-interpret or nagpa-process ng information kung ano siya. So, parang sa brain natin kina-categorize or ina-identify niya na kung ano yung stimuli na yun. And then, yung brain natin, it tells the body kung ano yung appropriate the reaction na dapat gawin niya to that stimuli. So kapag sinabi nating appropriate, dapat angkop sa situation. So if it's a loud sound, di ba often yung reaction natin is to cover our ears, no? Or if it's a bright light, our typical reaction is to cover our eyes or something like that. So, yeah. So basically, if may issues sa sensory processing, there will definitely be issues with the way, these children would respond to their environment. So hindi sila nakakapag-adjust kung ano man yung nararanasan nila within or outside their bodies. Yan. Yan. So if children are unable to process yun nga, sensory information, they're often diagnosed with sensory processing disorders. So para mas maintindihan po natin yung sensory processing disorders, let's watch a very short video. So tell me po if may audio or wala. May audio po ba? May audio po. Ayan, may audio. Okay. I'll play.
I choose my favorite soft clothes without tags. I can't grasp the zipper to my sweatshirt, so Mom helps me. I have plain toast for breakfast. Mom cuts strawberries, but I don't like the small seeds. During group work, my teacher tells me to pay attention. The other students are talking and moving so much. I cannot concentrate. The lunchroom is so loud. I feel anxious and put on my headphones. I try to eat my lunch, but the smells in the lunchroom make me gag. I'm doing my homework when my little brother starts to cry. I yell at my brother to stop crying. My mom sends me to my room. It's hard to find a comfortable spot in bed. My mind is so busy. I can't fall asleep. My mom covers me with a heavy blanket, and I finally drift off. If your child experiences sensory processing struggles, Brain Balance can help. Visit brainbalance.com and discover life after brain balance.
Okay. Oops. Wait lang po. Okay. So from the video, can anyone tell me po kung ano yung mga na-notice nilang behaviors ni Sarah na naiiba or napaperceive yung as different? You can type or unmute po. It's all right. Okay, can't focus. Why can't she focus? Okay, can't sleep. Okay, because of her external environment. Okay, any other answers? Okay. Okay, she doesn't like certain food. Okay. Okay. So, yun. So, very good po yung mga answers ninyo. So, yung mga things na nabanggit po ninyo, they all have one thing in common. No? So, the way she responded to her environment or around her environment were not appropriate kasi, yun nga, she doesn't like certain foods na to the point that she has to remove the seeds of the strawberry na part naman ng strawberry. She can't focus daw kasi masyado daw maingay sa school or masyado maingay yung pag-iiyak ng kapatid niya. So, in a way, as you can see na yung environment niya na-aggravate yung sensory problems niya. So, in a way, kapag na-aggravate yung sensory problems niya, hindi siya she can't function well or she can't live productively. So that's what we need to address. Yung the way she responds or the way she processes information. So another easy illustration of how sensory processing disorders affect children is that. So let's say, ayan. So ang sensory processing disorder basically is the difficulty to respond appropriately to stimuli. So, yun, to illustrate, so let's say may batang nadapa, di ba? So nagkaroon ng galis or sugat na malaki. So usually, di ba po, pag nasaktan, so umiiyak tayo, nagpa-panic. So ito yung mga usual responses kasi ang sugat ay masakit at mahapde. So umiiyak tayo dahil yun ang sinasabi ng utak natin. Masakit yung sugat na yan. So, pero po sa isang bata na may issue sa sensory processing, iba yung typical reaction nila. So when I say typical, ito yung nakasanayan nilang response. Like for example, yun nga, nasugatan, pero nakita nating wala siyang nararamdaman. So basically flat lang yung face niya. So makikita natin dito pa lang sa example na to kung gaano kahalaga ma-identify na if merong sensory issue yung bata. Kasi we want them to perform activity safely. So paano nga magiging safe yung bata if hindi siya gaano ka-aware na pwede palang masaktan sa kanyang environment, no? So to discuss further, ayan. So may tatlong types po ng sensory processing disorder. So yung una po ay, ayan, sensory motor based disorder. So ito yung mga children na may difficulty on how to move and execute their body, no, in relation to their environment. So ito yung mga children na may problems with copying and executing movement. So madalas silang natutumba, hindi sila maka-copy ng mga kunwari ng mga yoga poses. So nahihirapan sila simpleng pag-raise ng arms, pag-raise ng legs. So hindi sila makahawak ng mga eating utensils and various tools. So dahil nga hindi sila makahawak ng maayos na mabuti, for example, ng lapis. So makikita mo sa handwriting pa lang nila, hindi gaano kadiin or hindi mo masyado naiintindihan. Okay po? So ito din yung mga children na hindi sila makapag fully participate in sports kasi nga they cannot perform movements very well. So hindi sila ganun ka-coordinated. And the next is sensory discrimination disorder. So ito yung hirap mag-recognize and mag-interpret yung pagkakapare-pareho and yung pagkakaiba-iba. So similarities and differences ng mga stimuli. So ito pala yung hindi pala na alam nila na nasusugatan na pala sila or nasasaktan kapag may something na painful na dumapo sa balat nila. So hindi nila ma-identify yung temperature ng food. So sila yung napapaso na hindi pala nila alam. So ito yung mga masyadong malakas or sobrang hina magsalita. So yun nga, hindi nila masyado na naangkop yung response nila sa tamang level lang. Yan. And then next is So next is sensory modulation. So ito yung mga may difficulty makapag-produce ng appropriate and correct level of response. So again, yun nga, parang yun yung main idea ng sensory processing, no? So it's producing an appropriate response. So dapat angkop ito sa situation and dapat correct level ng response. So meaning dapat hindi ganon ka-intense and hindi din, yun nga, walang reaction. Kasi it's concerning if the child reacts very negatively to something, and it's also concerning if yung child hindi nagre-react to anything. So ito yung mga children na very sensitive or very low yung sensitivity nila. So to understand better yung sensory processing disorders, ito po yung model, na explaining na yung mga children or people meron different sensory needs and sensory behaviors na pinapakita. So since this is very complex, so isipin na lang natin na parang baso, no? So ang mga tao may iba't ibang size ng baso. So ito yung tinatawag na sensory threshold. So the sensory threshold is represented by a cup or a glass, no? So this sensory threshold, so ito yung capacity ng tao na makatanggap ng stimuli. So let's say over-responsive yung tao. So meaning yung baso niya maliit lang and sobrang mabilis mapuno. So parang konting stimuli nang sobrang bilis nila mag-react and very sensitive sila sa stimuli. So kapag naman under-responsive, sobrang laki ng baso nila na kahit anong lagay natin ng stimuli, hindi talaga sila nagre-react or parang kulang pa rin yung natatanggap nilang stimuli. So ito yung mga matataas, yung sensory threshold. Kaya sila under-responsive or kulang yung stimuli na natatanggap ng katawan nila. Yan. So to put this in a better way. So let's say for example, sa isang classroom, no? So may different types of students and they are in the same environment. Pero iba-iba yung behaviors na pinapakita nila kasi iba-iba yung way kung paano nila napaprocess yung stimuli. So iba-iba din yung way kung paano silang magre-respond sa nakikita or nararamdaman nila sa kanilang environment. So may mga children po na mas kailangan ng mas maraming stimuli and may mga children rin po na hindi gaano kailangan ng karaming stimuli para ma-regulate yung sarili. So, yun go. Ayan. So again, yung mga ipapakita po nilang behavior is nagiging result siya of different sensory needs. So, and tong mga behaviors na to actually are, the way they would respond kung ano yung nararamdaman nila sa environment nila. So, for example, low registration. So ito yung mga batang alam nila na may nangyayari sa paligid nila pero hindi nila masyadong napaprocess to. So ito yung mga children na mukhang uninterested, passive, pero pag tinanong mo naman kung ano yung tinuturo ng teacher, alam niya. It's just that sobrang bagal yung i-process yung information. And then next, so meron mga sensory seeking. So ito yung actively na naghahanap ng stimulus. Sila yung takbo na takbo sa classroom, labas ng labas, kumakagat ng kung ano-ano kasi may hinahanap sila para masatisfy yung needs nila. So meron ding So meron ding very, very aware sila kung ano yung nasa paligid nila. So ito yung mga kids na very sensitive. So ayaw nila yung sound ng electric fan, ayaw nila yung naririnig yung chalk na kapag nagsusulat yung teacher. So often yung mga sensitive na kids, sila yung malaki yung reaction na parang ayoko nito, naiinis ako. Yan. So often frustrated sila sa mga nanonotice nila sa environment nila. And then lastly, may mga mga sensory avoiding kids. So sila yung mga alam nilang ayaw talaga nila yung mga bagay na yun. So ayaw nila yung feeling na nakalapat yung paa nila sa grass. Sila yung mga kids na ayaw nakakita ng bright lights. So sila yung mga kids na ayaw ng sticky things sa kamay nila kasi iba yung feeling or it gives them some form of discomfort nga. No? Yan. So basically, yun nga po, yung mga behaviors, so result sila ng pagkakaroon ng different sensory needs ng bata. Kasi magkakaiba yung sensory threshold. So may mga basong mas malaki na mabilis mapuno and may mga basong mas maliit, mahirap mapuno. And yung mga behaviors na to, they're a response to the way they process stimuli so that they can adapt to their environment. Okay. Ayan. Yeah. Okay. So now naman po, I'm going to discuss yung mga example behaviors for each sensory problem. No? So let's start po with visual. So kapag sinabi nating under-responsive, so sila yung baso malaki. So kailangan punuin ng punuin. So sila yung mga batang mahilig tumitig sa ibang tao kasi kailangan nila ng mas maraming visual input. And sila nga din yung mga batang hirap mag-focus sa tasks kasi they need more time to process kung ano yung nakikita nila. So yung mga over-responsive, again, maliliit lang yung baso, sobrang mabilis mapuno. So sila yung mga ayaw sa mga lugar na maraming tao, ayaw nila sa mga lugar na masyado maliwanag kasi nakakasilaw. And sila din yung na-overwhelm kapag marami silang nakikitang kalat, no? Or maraming clutter na nakikita. Okay. And then for tactile, again, under-responsive. So ito yung mga actively na naghahanap ng touch or sila yung mga nagpapabuhat kasi gusto nila yung feeling na hinahawakan sila or gusto nila yung feeling na may nakalapat sa balat nila. So sometimes ito yung mga madudumi na makikita nating kids na mahilig maglaro sa labas kasi they want the sensation of something on their skin such as dirt. Okay. And then for over-responsivity naman to tactile stimuli, so ito yung mga kids na iniiwasan magpahag, ayaw nila magpakis, o ito din yung mga kids na ayaw yung ginugupitan ng kuko, ayaw magpagupit ng buhok. And ito yung mga kids na nag-iiwas ng mga certain textures, often mga magagaspang or often sticky like clay or glue. Ayan. So far, clear naman po yung dinidiscuss ko. Ayan, okay. Thank you po for reacting. Yeah. Thank you po. Okay. And then next is, So yung mga oral under-responsive sa oral stimuli. So ito yung mga kids na naghahanap ng mga tastes or flavors na very unpeculiar or very peculiar pala. So ito yung mga kids na mahilig kumain ng maanghang, yung mga kids na kain ng maasim na candy, mahilig sa crunchy food. So ito din yung mga kids na naglalagay ng mga non-edible things sa bibig nila like pencil erasers, crayons, minsan kumakagat ng sponge. So it really depends. So sa bata kung ano yung hinahanap nila. And then for those naman very sensitive sa oral stimuli, so sila yung mga ayaw ng certain texture sa food. So ayaw nila ng gulay, ayaw nila ng okra kasi daw slimy, ayaw nila ng gelatin, ayaw nila ng sweets. So ito din minsan yung mga kids na ayaw nahahawakan near their mouth. So often sila yung may mga issues with their dental health kasi ayaw nilang nagpapa-toothbrush or ayaw nilang may lumalapit sa kanilang bibig para hawakan. Okay po. And then next is auditory. So very self-explanatory. So yung mga under-responsive, so sila yung madalas nakikinig sa mga loud music or often nakaupo silang malapit sa radyo or TV para marinig nila or makita nila yung pinapanood nila. So yung mga over-responsive or yung mga super sensitive sa auditory stimuli, so ito yung mga kids na tinatakpan yung tenga nila kapag nakakarinig ng loud sounds or umiiyak kapag nakakarinig ng loud sounds na hindi din sila gaano ka-familiar. And then next, yan, proprioceptive. So again, yung proprioceptive meaning they like pressure on their muscles or they're trying to avoid pressure on their muscles and joints. So yung mga under-responsive, so ito yung mga mahilig manipa, mga gat, pasok ng kung ano-ano sa bibig. And then yung mga sensitive naman sa proprioceptive input. So again, sila yung mga mukhang disinterested, sila yung parang passive lang, walang reaction. And ayaw din nilang binubuhat kasi ayaw nga nilang may feeling na nakahawak sa kanilang muscles or joints. And then lastly, so ito yung vestibular, very movement-based. So ito yung mga children na takbo ng takbo, ikot ng walang pagod kasi hinahanap yun ng katawan nila kapag under-responsive sila. So kapag over-responsive naman, yun nga, ayaw nila yung feeling na gumagalaw. So often nakaupo lang sila. Yan. So clear naman po yung mga behaviors. Okay, sige po. Thank you po. So, dako naman po tayo sa sunod. So, ayan. So, ano po ba yung pwede nating gawin muna para ma-address tong behaviors na to? No? So, nag-prepare po ako ng simple na chart na kung saan pwede nyong i-note kung ano yung napapansin nyo sa anak nyo. So, through this chart, we can easily tell kung ano yung needs and preferences para ma-manage natin later on kapag kailangan na talagang i-address. No? So, now, the question is, ayan, ano po ba yung nangyayari kapag hindi nga nami-meet yung sensory needs or preferences ng bata or hindi nila nakukuha yung gusto nila, 'di ba? So minsan po, like for example, may mga batang mahilig na kumain ng crunchy food and may ginagawa sila activity, so kinuha natin yung crunchy food na yon. So minsan po, 'di ba, makikita natin umiiyak sila or frustrated. So may term po tayo doon sa reaction na yun. So ang tinatawag po doon ay sensory meltdown. So for some parents, iniisip nila na umiiyak or nagdadabog yung anak nila. Pero they don't understand na very different po ang sensory meltdowns sa tantrums. Yes, pareho silang nagmamanifest or nakikita natin silang umiiyak, sumisigaw, nanghahampas, nananakit. Pero ang main difference po doon is that yung meltdown is nararamdaman nilang overwhelmed sila sa stimuli na natatanggap ng katawan nila. So it's either kulang, yun nga, kapag, di ba po yung batang naghahanap ng crunchy food, tinanggal natin. So kulang for them yung sensory input na natanggap nila or sobra naman. So especially for kids na very sensitive, no? So yung reaction nila ay beyond their control. So hindi agad nila na pipigilan yung sarili nila. So kapag kasi tantrum, may control yung bata. So in a way, very manipulative in nature yung tantrum. No, very behavioral yung tantrum. As opposed to meltdown, sensory siya. As in, kailangan ng katawan siya. Okay po? So yung meltdown, titigil lang yung pag-iyak niya or pananakit or kung ano man po yung manifestation ng meltdown niya kapag napagod na yung bata or may naramdaman na siyang iba sa kanyang paligid, no? As opposed sa tantrum na kapag binigay mo yung ice cream, titigil na siya sa pag-iyak, no? So yun po yung difference ng tantrum sa meltdown. So yung isa, napipigilan ng bata and yung isa, hindi kasi kailangan niya ng katawan niya. Okay po? So malinaw po ba yung difference ng meltdown and tantrum? Okay. Okay. Sige. Thank you for your actions. Okay, now, so ngayon, para mabawasan or ma-prevent natin yung occurrence ng mga meltdown, kailangan natin malaman yung cause. So, is it because masyadong masikip yung suot niyang damit? Kasi so, feeling niya na re-restrict siya or hindi siya makahinga? So, is it because kulang siya sa movement activities? Kailangan niya pong tumalon? Kailangan pa niyang manipa? So, it's really knowing or dapat kilalahanin natin ng sobra yung ating anak nila. And alamin natin kung ano yung dahilan kung bakit sila nagme-meltdown para ma-prevent natin later on. Okay po? Yan. So, after naman po natin i-discuss yung mga behaviors, no? So, ito na po yung ano na yung pwede natin gawin. So, we need to collaborate, no? OTs and parents need to collaborate. Kasi yung parents, sila yung mas may alam sa bata kasi sila yung madalas kasama ng bata sa bahay para makabuo ng isang management program, no, para sa kanila. So para ma-address natin yung sensory processing difficulties ng bata ay ang gagamitin nating approach ay sensory integration. So very important to know na hindi ito treatment, but sensory integration is a management program ng sensory processing difficulties. Kasi sensory needs and yung mga sensory preferences ng bata, hindi po siya disease. So, hindi naman siya nakakahawa. Yung preferences and needs nila, it's part of who they are. So, it's part of their development. And we're just trying to manage these difficulties para magawa pa rin nila yung mga activities nila independently and safely. So, we must also note din yung importance kung bakit tayo nagbibigay ng activities to promote sensory integrations, no? So, ayun nga, bakit mahalaga magbigay tayo ng mga sensory integration activities sa mga bata? So, kasi kapag, di ba po, yun nga, dysregulated yung bata, very limited lang yung pagpo-perform nila ng activities. So, kapag sinabi nating dysregulated, so sila yung, yun nga, malikot, iyak ng iyak, wala masyadong ginagawa. Hindi sila masyadong makakagawa ng mga bagay kasi nga dysregulated sila. So through these activities na ibibigay natin, nare-regulate nila yung sarili nila para makapag-focus yung katawan nila and yung mind nila para makapag-participate sila and maging productive. No? So, ang next part po, ayan. So, so for some parents, very familiar po tong form na to and for some OT interns na nandito sa ating webinar today. So madalas pinapa-fill up to during the initial evaluation or pinapasagot or sinesend sa parents yung sensory profile para ma-identify ng parent kung saan ba talaga merong concern yung bata. Kung tactile ba, oral, proprioceptive, vestibular. So yung information na makukuha namin dito from the parents, kailangan i-compare sa nakikita ng OT kapag ini-evaluate na yung bata. Kung ganun ba talaga yung pinapakita nila. Kasi sometimes yung behavior nga, nag-iiba po from one environment to another. So dapat, in a way, malaman natin na, concern nga to, dapat yung behaviors na to consistent across different environments. So dapat ganito din siya sa bahay or ganito din siya sa school. Okay po? So, kapag tugma yung report and observation, so doon tayo bubuo ng specific sensory diet. So bakit specific? Kasi nga po, yung mga bata may iba't ibang pangangailangan. So wala pong dalawang bata na may parehong sensory needs. Pero yun nga, may similarity sila, pero yung masasabi nating parehong-pareho, wala pong ganun. So ayun nga po, mahalin tulad natin yung sensory diet sa isang food diet na kung saan ang isang tao ay may mga dapat iwasan at dapat kainin. Ngunit, imbes na food, yung nakalagay sa sensory diet, of course, mga activities. Kasi ito yung heart ng occupational therapy. Ang paggamit ng activities para ma-improve yung skills. No? So, yung mga activities na to, binibigay or nare-recommend ng OT para ma-meet yung sensory needs or preferences ng bata. So, ina-avoid natin yung mga activities na hindi nila gusto or nagbibigay sa kanila ng uncomfortable na feeling. So kung ayaw niya ng masyadong movement-based, konti lang ibibigay, hindi naman totally itatanggalin sa kanyang sensory diet. So sometimes nga, ini-introduce po natin yung mga bagay or activities gradually until masanay sila. So, ganito po yung itsura ng isang sensory diet. Ayan. Yan. So, very similar po siya sa meal plan, no? At a specific day, ito yung gagawin. But, of course, unlike a diet, hindi po siya strict. So, pwede iba-ibahin yung activity per day as it really depends on the mood and the needs of the child for that day. So, for example, this Monday, so sobrang energetic ng anak natin. So, kailangan natin magbigay ng more calming activities like yoga or massages. And then, next week, napansin nyo na, ay, parang yung anak ko ang hilig magbutingting ng mga bagay-bagay sa bahay. So, that means, kailangan natin magbigay ng activities that uses his hands or fingers tulad ng finger painting or pagpipindot-pindot ng mga keys sa keyboard or piano. So, in this aspect po, no, yung nakikita natin ng mga activities na to, nagbibigay tayo ng iba't ibang uri ng activities. So, hindi lang dapat puro movement-based, hindi lang dapat puro tabletop din na activities like arts and crafts. Kasi, kapag na-overuse na yung activities, hindi na gumagana. So, nasasanay yung bata and nagiging dysregulated na ulit sila. No? So, yun nga po, apart from the fact na kailangan iba't iba yung activities na binibigay natin sa bata, dapat hindi din sila gaano nadadalian or hindi din sila gaano nahihirapan dun sa activity. Dapat always right amount of challenge. Right amount lang yung challenge para natututo yung bata. Okay po? So, if yun nga, napapansin natin na dadalian na siya masyado sa yoga, pwede nating, kunwari, patagalin yung time na kailangan nila i-maintain yung pose. So, konti natin iti-tweak para mahirapan at mabigyan nga ng challenge pa rin yung bata. Okay po? So far clear po ba yung sensory diet and sensory integration? Ayan, okay. Ayan, okay. Thank you for reacting. Okay, thank you po. So now, ayan. So ngayon po, let's make it fun, no? So, ngayon, i-discuss ko po yung mga strategies kung anong pwede nating gawin dun sa mga behaviors para ma-address sila or para mabawasan or mabago natin yung mga behaviors na yan. So, I'm encouraging everyone po to use your Zoom React functions para mas interactive yung discussion natin. Okay po? Okay. Ayan, okay. Zoom React functions. Yan. Utilize them po, utilize. Okay. So, let's start. Ayan. So, yung behavior niya is, ayaw niya ng solid foods and gusto niya lang often ng soft foods like ice cream or soft rice or soups. So, I'm going to ask first kung ano po ba yung sensory system na affected. So, you can unmute yourselves or type. So, let's utilize for Zoom. Ayan. So, yan, taste. Okay, very good. So, ang sensory system na affected dito ay taste. But it could also be because olfactory or tactile. It really depends on the child. So I'd like to know, ayan, do you think that this child is over-responsive or under-responsive? Okay, I'm seeing claps. Ayan. Okay. Okay. So ayan. Okay. So the correct answer is actually this kid is very over-responsive to oral or tactile stimuli. So what can we do kapag yung anak natin picky eater, no? Yan. So these are just some ways on how we can introduce, new textures of food through a fun way. So para po tong sensory tactile bin, no? So we are gradually introducing yung mga non-preferred o yung mga ayaw nilang food in very small amounts muna para hindi sila ma-overwhelm. Or pwede natin ihalo sa mga foods na familiar na sila para nga alam nila, oh, ito pala yung food na hindi ko kinakain pero nakahalo siya sa food na kinakain ko. So maybe I can try this, no? So yun yung nagiging thought process ng bata. And then pwede ring i-introduce muna natin yung cookie, for example, as crushed, imbes na ibigay yung isang buong cookie kung hindi pa siya kumakain ng cookie. So it's always giving them the non-preferred food first in very small amounts para hindi sila ma-overwhelm. So pwede nyo siyang gawin na ganito, na iba't ibang klaseng food para, yun nga, magkaroon siya ng idea na, oh, meron pa palang ibang food akong pwedeng i-try. So kapag ayaw nila to, pwede naman nilang hugasan yung, so always present po pala na with a bowl of water para if ayaw nila hawakan, they can always wash their hands after. So pwede rin naman gawin is through a guessing game. So tatakpan yung mata nila. Kasi some kids, kapag nakikita pa lang nila yung food, ayaw na nila agad hawakan or ayaw agad nila itry. So one interesting way to allow the kid to explore food and other textures or sensations is eliminating their vision. So they should use their hands, their nose, and mouth. Okay po. Yan. So, yun po. I'd like to add din pala na it's very important to take note kung ano yung food na gusto nila and ano yung food na ayaw nila and how it was prepared or how it was cooked. Kasi some children are okay with mashed potatoes pero kapag prinito na nila yun, ayaw na nila. So it's always, taking note of the preferences of the child. Okay. And so let's go to the next naman. Ayan, number 2. Ayan. So, can anyone guess kung ano yung mga possible sensory system or sensory systems na may concern dito? Okay, proprioceptive. Okay. So that's correct. So it could be proprioceptive or vestibular since these two sensory systems are mainly focused on the body and, in relation to movement. So for very active children, so ito yung mga takbo ng takbo and parang hindi napapagod. Ayan. Before we go into the strategies pala, so do you think that this child is over-responsive or under-responsive? Since takbo sila ng takbo as if hindi sila napapagod. Okay, I see hearts. Okay. Okay, I see hearts. I see hearts. Okay. Tama po. So yung sagot dito is that the child is proprioceptive seeking. So naghahanap siya ng sensory input through movement. So since very active sila, ginagamit nila yung katawan nila, ang binibigay nating activities for them ay often yung mga calming activities para nare-regulate nila yung sarili nila so they can focus on other activities, no? So for example, mga deep pressure massages kasi nga yung proprioceptive system matatagpuan sa loob ng ating muscles and joints. So nakakalma yung muscles and joints natin kapag minamassage or hinahawak-hawakan. So pwede din ng yoga kasi 'di ba pag yoga, yung movements very slow, very relaxing. So, nasa-stretch yung muscles kapag nag-yoga. So, pwede ding swinging, especially for kids na naghahanap ng vestibular input or yung very movement talaga yung hinahanap nila. So, very calming ang swinging for them. And then, other activities na pwede natin i-provide is heavy work activities. Kung saan ginagamit nila yung katawan nila to lift things, to carry stuff using bags. So, pwede din yung push and pull activities. May hinihila silang bag or something na kahon. So, yun po yung mga heavy work activities. Pwede din po yung weight-bearing activities na tulad ng push-up. So, yung mga exercises na ginagamit yung katawan madalas, yung weight na binubuhat. The next. Yan. Okay. So, ito naman yung next behavior na we'll discuss. Can anyone guess kung ano yung sensory system na may issue? Ayan, tactile. Okay. So, very easy. So, yung kid na to, are they over-responsive or are they under-responsive? So, ayaw nila. So, yun yung clue. Ayaw nila talaga. Okay. Okay, I see clapping hands. So, tama po na very tactile avoiding sila. So, kasi ayaw nila yung feeling na ganito, yung nakalapat sa kanilang balat. So, what we can do to change that or to reduce that is magbigay po tayo ng opportunities na makapag-explore sila ng new textures or feelings. And also, giving yung ayaw nilang sensation in very small amounts. So, pwede po natin gawin is sensory bins. So, sa laman ng sensory bins, pwedeng bigas, coins, cottons, mango seeds. So, anything that they can safely touch and explore, no? So, always, again, prepare a bowl of water para kapag ayaw na nila, they can always wash their hands after. So pwede ding finger painting or ito. This one is a very, very good activity, yung mga busy boards. Kasi children learn how to use everyday objects. So yung busy boards, usually meron dyan mga susi, meron mga doorknobs or mga door locks, no? Na everyday objects na magagamit, no? Paglaki nila. Okay, next naman. Ayan, ito. So, a child that bites and eats pencil eraser. So, what could be the sensory system na problematic here or kailangan i-address? You can type for your answers. Okay. Oh, okay. So, I'll just answer it now, for now. So, for this one, yung sensory system na kailangan i-address actually is oral and proprioceptive. So it could be then tactile, but it's more of oral and proprioceptive. So yeah. So is this child oral over responsive or oral under responsive? Okay, I see hearts. Yeah, okay, correct. So let's not forget kasi na yung mouth natin, no? They're composed of muscles as well. And the tongue is a very complex muscle. So, kailangan, yan, bigyan natin sila ng more opportunities to explore using foods or objects na napopromote yung kanilang blowing, sucking, and chewing. Kasi, mas maraming napoprovide na sensory input yung blowing, sucking, and chewing as opposed to sa pag-lick lang or pag-taste lang ng mga bagay-bagay, no? So, I saw this one po sa Pinterest kasi according to the mom, na yung anak niya mahilig lang daw kumain ng one type of snack. So, which is parang yung Rice Krispies. So, ang ginawa niya is, yun nga, bumili siya nung mga grids sa isang store and naglagay siya ng iba't ibang klaseng food para matry ng anak niya yung iba. So, it's, yun nga, giving them parang giving them then a sense of control kasi sila yung pinapapili mo ng kung anong gusto nilang kainin. And then, meron din pong tinatawag na chewy tubes na makikita sa Lazada. So, yun nga po, apart from the fact na nagpo-provide to ng oral sensory input yung mga activities na to, so ini-improve nila yung ability ng child makapagsalita, especially if non-verbal yung kid. So, na-improve din nila nito yung ability mag-swallow, mag-bite, and mag-chew. Since na-work yung muscles ng mouth. Okay po? So far, clear naman po ba yung tinidiscuss ko? Okay. So last, I think we have 3 left. So, yeah. A child that is afraid of the sound of tricycles. So, can anyone guess? It's very easy. Kung ano yung auditory. So this one, is the kid over-responsive or under-responsive to auditory stimuli? Okay. Okay. Tama. So, the child is over-responsive, no? So, to avoid, pwede tayong, yan. So, if may extra budget, we can actually provide them with noise-canceling headphones or mas madaling way, i-inform natin yung anak natin na every time na may gagamitin tayong loud na machine at home, pwede nating sabihin sa kanila, anak, natakpan mo yung tenga mo, gagamitin ko yung vacuum o gagamitin ko yung blender or may dadaan na truck or motor. So those are just very simple ways para ma-reduce yung pagiging responsive nila sa auditory stimuli. Ang isa pang way is, yun nga po, exposing them to different sounds. So pwede tayong gumamit ng YouTube, then mag-play lang tayo ng mga random sounds so that they can familiarize themselves na, ay, may iba't iba palang talagang sounds sa aking environment, no? And hindi lang yung loud sounds. Okay po? So next. Ayan. So a child that is sensitive to bright lights. So can anyone guess? Visual, okay. So actually, pwede din tong auditory and visual. So yung strategy niya apply natin sa auditory is the same. So, sabihin na, magpapaputok, may paputok na next tuwing New Year or kaya yun nga, gamitan ng noise-canceling headphones kapag New Year's Eve na. So, kapag naman visual and Yan. Do you guys think that this kid is over-responsive or under-responsive? Kasi ayaw niya yung bright lights. Yan, over-responsive. Okay. Yan. So, very good. So, ang pwede natin gawin if a child is very over-responsive to visual stimuli. So, one, so ang pinakamadali is, yun nga, every time na lalabas kayo, magdala na lang kayo ng shades or sunglasses so that hindi sila masyado na-expose or nasisilaw kapag, yun nga, may araw or that pupunta kayo sa isang lugar with a lot of bright lights. So, at home, ang pwede natin gawin is, yun nga, kung saan sila madalas gumagalaw or gumagawa ng activities, ilayo natin yung play area nila from the window, no? Para, yun nga, they can still do the activities they want without being overwhelmed kung ano yung nakikita or nararamdaman nila sa environment nila. And then next, I think this one is the last. Yan. So, can anyone guess if this child is very passive and ayaw niyang gumalaw, ano yung mga possible sensory systems na affected or kailangan ma-address? Okay, vestibular. Okay, vestibular and proprioceptive. So, is this kid, is this kid over-responsive or under-responsive? Since wala siyang, yun nga, no reaction, ay gumalaw. Okay, so I see hearts. Okay, so this kid is very under-responsive or yun nga, low yung registration niya kasi sobrang laki ng baso niya na kailangan madaming stimuli para makapag-react siya. So for kids, the very passive, ayaw na movement, so ang binibigay natin na activities are actually very alerting in nature or yun nga, parang warm-up activities kasi for example, yung dancing or Zumba, di ba? It gets our blood flowing. So parang nagigising yung utak and katawan natin kapag gumagalaw tayo na mabilis. So pwede din bigyan natin sila ng fidget toys if needed para makapag-focus sila if may ginagawa sila. So also, pwede din gawin nila yung mga activities sa isang maliwanag na kwarto para yun nga, maraming iba't ibang klaseng stimulation na tatanggap kapag mas nakikita niya yung paligid niya, right? So, very important din yung environment kapag very important na i-consider natin yung environment kapag nagbibigay tayo ng mga activities kasi it's not always, the activities itself, but it's also, considering kung saan ginagawa yung mga activities. So, I think, ayan. So, yun lang po yung mga some strategies kung paano natin ma-address yung mga common sensory processing difficulties ng mga bata, no? And later, sa ating Q&A, if you have other questions, you can also recommend other ways kung paano ma-address yung mga na-observe nyo pong behaviors ng mga children nyo. Okay? So, in summary, so sensory processing, again po, is how we experience the world, so how we understand yung mga nararamdaman natin outside and inside our bodies and how we respond dun sa mga nararamdaman natin sa ating environments, no? And yun nga, yung mga behaviors ng mga bata, ito yung primary way of expressing themselves and ma-communicate nila kung ano yung kailangan nila. Kasi again, behaviors are yung behaviors na pinapakita nila, it just means na may hinahanap sila for them to satisfy themselves, no? And it's also important to note na, again, kahit may similarity sila with their behaviors, no two children have the same sensory profile. So always yung sensory diet is very specific to just one child. And also, yun nga, modifying the environment plays a very big role so that the children can perform yung mga meaningful activities. So hindi po palagi na dapat yung bata yung binabago natin, but rather ina-adjust natin yung environment, no, para sa kanila and para sa mga kinakailangan ng katawan nila. And also, lastly, and also very important, is that para makabuo ng proper and appropriate sensory diet, you should consult always with your occupational therapist for that. Kasi, yun nga, we're encouraged to always collaborate with one another naman, no, for the proper management of these sensory processing difficulties. So I think that ends my presentation for today, and I really hope that everyone has learned something new, and I hope that these strategies po makatulong sa inyo, no? So yun lang po. I'm very thankful po for this opportunity to speak. Thank you po everyone. Thank you. Thank you rin po. Thank you rin po. Thank you po. Thank you po. So, ano na po, if there are questions, you can raise them na po. Since for this, we still have like 30 minutes po or an hour for the Q&A. So, pwede po yung i-type yung concerns niyo or pwede po kayo mag-unmute. May questions po ba sila? Okay po. Yes po. May question po about sa learning of pyramid. Sige po. What is your question po, ma'am? Okay. Sige po. If may questions po, you can just type them. Then we'll go through them one by one. Yes po, mommy. We need to address po yung sensory issues first before working on work behaviors. Kasi nga, if they don't understand yung what's within their environment, it's very difficult then to teach them on how to comply, how to follow instructions. Kasi yun nga po, yung sensory system, sila yung foundational skills. So we need to work on that first before going into more advanced skills like work behaviors. Other questions po? Wait lang po, medyo. Okay, hindi ko po nakikita yung questions. Ayan. So may nag-direct message po sa akin. So for a 3-year-old na child na oral seeking, is it okay na nagpa-pacifier pa po siya? So actually po, yung pacifier dapat hindi na po siya gumagamit nun if beyond the age of 2. Kasi encourage na po yung child to eat solid foods na by that time. So if yun nga po, naghaharap pa rin po siya ng other ways to satisfy po yung oral needs niya, you can try po giving activities na nagagamit pa rin yung bibig niya like blowing bubbles, blowing whistles, using a straw to drink water, or yun nga po using chewy tubes or giving mga different types of snacks. Since 3 years old na po siya, and yun nga po, we're discouraging na po using pacifiers na by then. Okay po. So, another question. Okay po. Actually, yung question niyo po ba, Ma'am Belvis, is that nag-i-integrate na po yung, dapat by 8 to 10 years old, marunong na mag-integrate ng sensory information yung child? Tama po ba? Okay po. So, actually po, it really depends on the child. Kasi for some children, mas matagal talaga yung way or mas matagal for them matuto yung parang mas matagal po sa kanila talaga i-process yung sensory information. Kaya po tayo nagbibigay ng different activities. But even though po 12 years old pa rin yung kid, tinatawag pa rin po siyang sensory processing disorder kasi yun nga po, for some children, they live with this condition usually for the rest of their lives. So kahit po 12 years old pa siya, kahit 30 years old, as long as they have these types of behaviors, it's still called sensory processing. Yun nga po, disorders. Ano po, Mommy, yung... Okay, may isa pa pong question. For ADHD child, ano po, Mommy, yung mga behaviors po nung child po na yun na may ADHD? So, sila po ba'y... Kasi may children po na ADHD na, yun nga po, takbo ng takbo. Meron pong children din na okay. So, since hindi pa po tina-type ni... Okay. Okay. Since hindi pa po tina-type ni Ma'am Floria yung concerns niya, bale po yung... Ano po, Mommy, yung alam niyo pong term para po dun sa mga sensory processing issue for those children with 10 years old po and above? Kasi po, yung diagnosis po na sensory processing disorder, this is usually applicable for people of all ages, regardless po if they have it as a child or na-acquire po nila later on. But if ano naman po, Ma'am Pelvis, we could check that later on po kung ano po yung term na yun, and then we'll confirm it with you po. So may other questions po? Okay. So thank you po. Other questions? Any clarifications? Violent reactions? Comments, suggestions? Wala na po, teach. Okay. Okay, thank you. Oh, picture taking. Okay po. Okay. So since there are no more questions, everyone is encouraged to open their camera po for picture taking. Tadaan. Sino po yung magpipicture? Okay po. Teacher siya. Okay po.
I'll take the photo na lang. Open your cameras po.
Hi, Kens.
Alright. Okay, is everyone gonna open their cameras? I'll take a photo now. All right. So look at the camera na lang. Wait lang, I'll wait if there are other people pa. Okay, I'll take a photo already. Smile. 1, 2, 3. Okay, one more. 1, 2, 3. And I'm lucky. 1, 2, 3. All right, thank you.
Thank you po. Thank you po everyone for
Thank
attending.
you.
If may questions po, you can just raise them po. Thank you. Thank you.
We can leave the session already
Okay.
and just answer for the evaluation form. Thank you.
Thank you po.